As Greg Nuckols once put it,
not to overstate things, it is the cornerstone of long-term progress in the gym.
In today's video, I'm going to discuss why work capacity is key for anyone involved in any sort of resistance training. More specifically, I'm going to show you a crap load of methods to increase your work capacity. This way, you'll stay on the right path towards plenty of juicy gains.
First off, what is work capacity? In essence, it is the maximum amount of work that you can do in the gym and recover from and respond positively to.
Work capacity has a direct effect on crucial periods of time in a lifter's journey. The first one is during a set. If you're gasping for air like a maniac during a high rep set of squats to the point where you need to stop the set and rack the load, your work capacity might lag in the cardiovascular department. Your aerobic fitness should never be the limiting factor in your ability to complete a set. Muscular fatigue should, at least if you're a hypertrophy enthusiast. Perhaps you're strong enough at a muscular level to keep going, but unfortunately your heart and lungs lack the capacity to support that muscular effort. The second time where work capacity is absolutely key is intrasets. That's the time between the completion of one set and the start of the next one. Depending on your specific goals, intraset rest time would typically range from 2 to 5 minutes in most cases. If you want a more in-depth look into intraset rest time, I would recommend watching this video later on. Anyway, a clear sign of insufficient work capacity would be if you could perform at a high level once during your first set, but then your performance tanks in the subsequent sets despite a long rest period. Your cardiovascular system might be just fine, but your muscles' ability to keep working at the same level is subpar. Thus, you might be lacking in the muscular endurance department, and that's the main area you need to address. The third time period where work capacity comes to the forefront is throughout the entire training session. Similar to the previous one, if your resistance training program calls for a specific time duration per session, but you drag yourself around the gym halfway through them, well, this is another major red flag you need to address. The amount of energy your aerobic system produces limits how much you can do. If you feel physically and mentally exhausted, trudge across the gym, lose focus during sets, and you only go through the motions in the second part of your workout, your work capacity is not up to par with the amount of volume that you are expected to complete per session. The final time window work capacity is crucial for is the recuperation period from one session to another. If you can't sufficiently recover from workout to workout, your body will not be able to adapt to the ever-increasing demands of a training program based on progressive overload. Systemic fatigue might be accumulating at a faster rate your body can recover from, and this will most likely inhibit your progress. Furthermore, the stress from training is likely to be compounded by other external, non-training related factors. If you lead a stressful lifestyle deprived of sleep and insufficient nutrition, your progress could be slowed down, stalled, or even regressed. If this worst-case scenario drags on for too long, this could be an open invitation to Snap City. So all in all, your ability to complete, recover from, and positively respond to the stress from training over an extended period of time with the best possible structural resiliency hinges upon your work capacity. Yes, it is that important. If you can relate to any of the major red flags I identified so far in the video, I would encourage you to keep watching. Additionally, if you're someone who has been running a resistance training program for a while, made great strides at the start, but after a few months your progress has slowed down significantly, this second part of the video is also for you. Finally, if you're someone with no sports background growing up and you have recently hopped on a novice strength program, you're also likely to benefit from what's coming next. Once you get past the newbie phase, your long-term progress in the gym heavily depends on your ability to do more work. Your body has positively adapted to the past levels of physical stress, and now you need to do more to keep moving forward. Now I'm going to briefly discuss what specific things you can do to increase your work capacity. These are going to be plenty to choose from, so please do not implement all of them at once. That would crush you. Seriously. Let's take a look at those methods that would only have a minimal impact on the structure of a good resistance training program for beginners. These add-ons would simply turn your current training into iterations of the same program, but with a higher workload. Adding an extra working set. A very simple way to increase the total tonnage lifted in a workout is by simply adding a set to an exercise. As you can see in the example on the screen, you don't have to rack your brain to come up with an additional third of extra work. The second option is a variation of the first one. A back-off set is performed at a lower intensity and is typically added after all of the working sets of an exercise have been completed. This is a great way to expose your body to high repetition work, which is something many people struggle with. The third option would be a cluster set. A cluster set is a series of mini sets within a larger set. Instead of completing a traditional set of 5 repetitions, you would only perform 2 reps with the same weight and then repeat this 2-rep cluster a few more times every half a minute. This method allows you to complete more work at high intensity at a much faster rate. Option number 4 would be to simply shorten your rest periods. By reducing the intra-set rest time, you could make a traditional strength workout a little bit more demanding from a cardiovascular standpoint. And the last option would be to decrease the absolute intensity by 10 to 20% in some lifts. This is commonly known as accumulation phase in powerlifting circles. If your training style leans more towards strength performance, it might be smart to keep some work within the intensity range relevant to your sport, but complete the bulk of your training with higher repetitions for a while. The second round of tweaks are bound to have a greater impact on the current structure of your workout, especially duration-wise. First, the following methods lend themselves better to those who lift recreationally for the sole goal of building muscle. And secondly, and perhaps more importantly, this section is great for bodybuilding because these tools call for a more frequent use of accessory movements. Adding single joint movements. These are typically smaller exercises that engage much less muscle mass and thus can only be done with relatively lighter loads. They can provide a positive growth stimulus to specific body parts that are only partially trained during compound lifts. If you need to improve your ability to handle metabolite accumulation during training, you could extend the last set of the workout through myo reps or a drop set. These are very metabolically challenging at a local level and allow the athlete to make sure that the targeted muscles are exhausted completely. Doing 2 exercises back to back, aka supersets. Supersets are so powerful in the sense that they could allow you to train 2 movements together without your performance taking a massive hit. This is especially the case for the agonist-antagonist type. These are supersets whereby the athlete does one movement followed by another that trains the opposing function. Within the family of supersets, not all combinations will have the same cardiovascular demand. From easier to harder, these are some pairings you can use. A superset of single joint movements like a biceps exercise and a triceps movement is a good combo to add towards the end of your workout. Although not exclusively, isolation movements are great to perform the so-called giant sets, which are a succession of more than 2 exercises being done without any rest. Think about a superset plus, if you will. Not an agonist-antagonist per se, but adding a single joint exercise right after a big compound lift is also a viable option as long as there is no muscle overlap. Something like loo raises after a leg press or squats. Agonist-antagonist supersets of upper body movements would be the most practical way to put together 2 big compound lifts. A machine or cable row followed by push-ups, for example, or pull-ups followed by the OHP. The last one might be a little bit too much for poorly conditioned individuals or for those of you with excessive body fat. If that's you, focus on exercises where your body is fixed into a position and only your upper extremities move. An example would be a lat pull down followed by a dumbbell bench press. The closed kinetic version of this superset, pull-ups and push-ups, would force your body to travel in space while your hands are fixed. If you reach a point where you can do multiple supersets of 2 upper body calisthenics movements for reps, then you know that your work capacity is moving in the right direction. The longest supersets would typically have you work one extremity at a time, like 1 arm rows for the upper body or Bulgarian split squats for the lower. Another route to explore would be high reps in lower body exercises. An extremely simple yet effective approach would be to do back squats for high repetitions. If you're only used to working within 1 to 6 reps for the most part, having to complete sets of 10 to 20 reps with lighter weights could be an eye-opener. The same could be said about hip hinges, and there's always the option of adding an extra day of training. For those of you who have the time and desire for it, you could spread your training volume in more sessions. This expanding phenomenon would happen organically if you're serious about your training anyway. There is only so much you can do productively in a workout before you run out of gas. By going to the gym more frequently, you're effectively shortening the recuperation time from session to session, which is exactly one of the features of an enhanced work capacity. How you organize your workload would highly depend on your schedule, goals, and preferences. Slowly but gradually implementing all the previously mentioned methods would produce great results both at a work capacity level and from a hypertrophic standpoint. The third and last round of suggestions would be more suitable at the end of your typical resistance training session or on a different day. Although I have to say that this section runs the risk of being conflicting with a maximal rate of muscle growth due to a higher recovery cost, but perhaps this training style is also more enjoyable and or practical for you, so I'm gonna throw it in just in case. You could use the last 10 to 20 minutes in the gym to do some sort of non-stop circuit using traditional strongman movements in combination with external weights, calisthenics, and machines. When implemented correctly, this type of groundwork could do wonders for your muscular endurance, cardiovascular system, and mental grit. But if you're too concerned with this circuit training style interfering with the muscle building process, stick to stuff with no eccentric loading. Similarly, you could also improve your work capacity outside the gym by doing large numbers of bodyweight squats, lunges, and step-ups throughout the week. This approach is quite popular among trainees who are big on GPP workouts mainly based on bodyweight exercises. The final two suggestions might take a little bit away from your ability to gain size and strength, but they would definitely help you increase your general physical preparedness and work capacity if that is your top priority for a specific training block. Remember that the whole purpose of improving your work capacity in the short to medium term could be extremely helpful for your long-term goal of getting bigger and stronger. Over time, our ability to do more work with higher loads will produce the type of adaptations we're looking for. I'm talking about gains here. Please do the YouTube thing, like, subscribe, drop a comment, share with friends and all that stuff, because it would definitely help the mission of this channel, which is to raise an army of Super Saiyans all around the world.